Apperly is an ultra-endurance athlete that utilizes enzymes extensively. He has won the 50-mile foot race across the Grand Canyon and back, bicycled solo across America, and recently completed climbing the highest peak on every continent, the 7 Summits. He credits enzymes for his superior state of health and his ability to stay both injury and illness-free. Troy is currently training to do the race across America, considered by many to be the world's toughest race, as well as completing a master's degree in nutrition. Troy's ultimate mission in life is to introduce enzymes to the world. He has been intimately involved in the enzyme industry for over 15 years. He is the founder and CEO of Enzymology Research Center Incorporated, one of the leading U.S. enzyme suppliers. Troy is currently writing a series of enzyme books as well as presenting his Reach Your Peak seminars internationally.
Good day. My name is Troy Apperly, President of Enzymology Research Center. We are a contract manufacturer and a raw material supplier of enzymes. Today, I'm here to talk to you about reaching your peak. We're going to go in and talk about a few things. The first thing are goals. So you got to have goals. The difference between people that have goals and don't have goals is epitomized in this cartoon. So the first group of people are busy enjoying life because they're doing something. The second group of people are busy talking about it and they're very unhappy. So that kind of differentiates between the two groups. One of my favorite things is having goals. You got to have goals. I tell people anything is possible with goals. If you do have goals, there's another quote that I really like that says, if you don't have goals, then you're destined to work for someone that does. So that had a very, very deep, profound impact on me when I first read that, because I was working for somebody. Another thing that had a very deep impact on my life, As a Man Thinketh, greatest book ever written, 60 pages, quick read. I recommend you read it. Can a mouse eat an elephant? Has anybody seen that happen before? Yes, one bite at a time. So you take any goal, no matter how large it is, you break it down into the smallest pieces, you can make it happen. Okay, you got to do 3 things. First thing you got to do is write it. So this includes doing, for me, an annual goal setting. I break that down into months as well as each week so that I'm monitoring on a regular basis. 2, you got to see it. So you take your collages, you take your photos, anything that you can visually help you, you look at those things every single day. The last thing you have to do is actually do something, so you have to make it happen, so to speak. So for some of the goals I wanted to do, there's a lot of physical things involved, so it involves running, lifting weights, things of that nature. Okay, 7 summits was my goal, so I wanted to climb the 7 summits in less than 2 years. That's something that no other American had ever done. Did I accomplish that? I accomplished it. It took a little bit longer to do it. It took 3 years, 314 days. This picture shows the geographic locations of the 7 summits. If we look at the variations as far as in elevation gain, we're at a severe disadvantage living in Minnesota just because it's at sea level. So you start from basically 0 and go almost up to 30,000 feet, which is where most commercial jetliners fly. First peak was again, you start these peaks wherever you're at. I mean, this is a relatively easy peak. Mount Elbrus, located in Russia, in the Caucasus mountain range. Twin Peaks, it's the peak that's located on the left-hand side. Very straightforward climb. Once you acclimatize, beautiful summit day. Knocked that one off. Went to Aconcagua, so this is another relatively easy peak. Much higher though, almost 23,000 feet, so it's the highest peak outside the Himalayan range. And with this peak, high winds are notorious. So the first summit attempt was hindered because of that. We have to come back another day and try it again. So summit day here. In the background, people leave different photographs, mementos, things of value that they want to leave at the summit. So there's usually a little pile of things that you see when you're up there. Next peak, most people are familiar with this and have heard of it or know somebody that's done it. So Kilimanjaro, most climbed mountain in the world. Beautiful, and it's true about what they say about the glaciers up there, that those are melting at a very rapid rate and will soon be gone. Famous photograph here underneath the sign. Next peak, Mount Vincent. This is a very critical peak as far as getting to it, access issues. So there's only one way in and one way off this continent. It's a very expensive proposition. Once you get down there, you'll enjoy the most pristine conditions that exist on the planet today. Views are amazing. Beautiful summit day here. Kosciuszko, this is basically a ski resort in the eastern board of Australia. A walk-up, as you can tell here, just wearing shorts, something very casual, so anybody could do this. Of course, that's why some people dispute that being the seventh summit. This peak here, Carson's Pyramid, is what some people consider to be the true seventh summit, as well as myself personally. So when you see this peak, again, major access issues getting here. Once you get there, it's really the only technical climbing peak out of the 8 peaks. So ropes, harnesses, zip lines, ascenders, every possible thing you could experience rock climbing that'll put your skills to the test here. Denali, also known as Mount McKinley in Alaska, for me, the hardest peak of all 8. So I had multiple attempts on this. All the bad conditions, worst things I've ever experienced in my 23 years of climbing, all happened on Denali. So this is a true man's mountain. It requires carrying a 60-pound pack and towing a 40-pound sled. So awesome, awesome peak. So when you do get to the summit, it's an absolute celebration. And again, without the help of Digestive Health, I wouldn't have made it. Last peak, the easiest peak of them all, Mount Everest. So we did the north side, and again, we did multiple attempts on this, tried the south side in '07, didn't quite make it to the summit, came back in '09, and then this is the base camp. You're looking at 17,000 feet, looking up almost 12,000 feet to the summit of Everest. Again, most smart people are going to be wearing oxygen once you hit the death zone above 25,000 feet, so I was no exception to that. And a noticeable difference. I mean, the performance that you're clicking along 25,000 feet, and then you put that on, I mean, it's like it's like a nitric oxide boost, right? Just boom, instant power. And that's really what makes it possible to get to the summit. Once you reach the summit, the picture shows here, you can relax, take your photos, your video, have a bite to eat, drink, and the weather conditions up here were absolutely spectacular, something you dream of. Spend 35 minutes on the summit, and the whole time you're thinking about how quickly you're going to get and safely back down off the peak. Accomplishing that in 3 years and 314 days, only two other Americans have ever accomplished that. So again, the power of goal setting is huge. Now I'm going to share with you one of the main reasons why I was able to accomplish the 7 summits. We're going to talk briefly about enzymes and introduce you to them, and why I've chosen to promote enzymes for the last 16 years. This is a 3D representation of what an enzyme is. What an enzyme does is more important. So it consists of 2 parts. So there's a physical part, or a physical aspect of the enzyme. That's the protein molecule. The other aspect is the electrical, or the energy. That's the part that we're after. It's very similar to a battery. When we buy a battery, we are interested in what energy it can provide, for our use, not the shell, so to speak. So same thing with enzymes. So what enzymes are capable of doing is that they'll take and break things down. So they'll, on this graphic representation here, they'll grab a molecule, split it into 2 pieces, then they'll go back up and perform that same function again. Now, how quickly can enzymes work, and how much energy is really involved here? If we look at like the average human being, we can do maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things at a time, right? Enzymes are capable of performing several million functions, like we see here, per second. So every second, so if you break a second down into 10 million segments, every one of those segments, the enzyme is breaking down something. So there's an enormous amount of power. I mean, unbelievable amount of power. And again, the scientists have yet to discover where this comes from. It's still an enigma. It's a mystery. So enzymes in general only do two things. One, they speed up the process of anything that they're added to, and two, they break things down. If we look at one of the other very interesting aspects of enzymes is something called bioluminescence. So that's a cold light that does not produce any heat. So you'll see this out in nature with fireflies, or you'll see that deep in the ocean with some of the animals down there where there is no light, so they have to provide their own means of light, and that's all done through an enzymatic reaction. And if we look at, people ask, where do enzymes come from? They come from raw food, so they're found in all raw foods. That could be fruits, vegetables, or meat for you sushi lovers. Anytime we cook and or process food over 118 degrees, that's going to start to damage and kill, destroy the enzymes. So most of the food that we eat today is devoid of enzymes. It's basically dead food. This is a very interesting slide from a physical perspective. If you look at the average percentage of where enzymes are active, they're at about 70 to 75% active at the normal body temperature. The reason when you get sick that the body temperature goes up is because it wants to increase the amount of enzyme activity. It wants to get you better faster, right? Enzymes are going to break things down and speed things up. So then no better case in point than when you get sick. So when your body reaches 104 degrees, what happens? Enzymes reach 100% capacity. They're doing everything they possibly can do to get you better. So usually what we do is reach for something to lower the temperature. So what that does is it prolongs our misery. So if we can remember that, you'll take enzymes, it'll speed that whole process up, and you'll see recuperation happen much, much faster. This is one of the most important slides that depicts how important enzymes are. So if we look at the majority of the energy that we get on a daily basis should be coming from our food sources. So again, if we can eat more raw foods or introduce a single raw food to every meal, that's a start. If you can't do that, then you need to take a digestive enzyme with that food to break it down. The second category on here is digestive enzymes. So if we're not getting them from the foods that we eat or taking digestive enzymes externally or separately, our digestive system has to supply those. Now, this is a law of adaptive secretion. So this says that the body has a limited potential to produce enzymes over its lifetime. So it values those enzymes more than any other thing in the body. So if it needs 15 enzymes to break down a piece of meat, it's only going to produce 15 or give up 15 enzymes to do that. Very important. So we want to maintain our enzyme battery, so to speak. Very interesting, profound book recently written by a medical doctor. This is the gentleman who introduced the camera that goes on the colonoscopy. So you can see what's going on inside there. But this is absolutely the best book written. Talks about the source enzymes. So source enzymes, again, come from our foods or from digestive enzymes that we take in the supplement form. And again, the body can utilize those and convert those into digestive and metabolic enzymes to maintain absolute balance in the body. If we look at, people ask, where do enzymes come from? They can only come from one of three sources today. So no matter where you go, where you're at on the planet, any health food store you go into, there are only these three choices. The red box are animal-based enzymes. These are the enzymes that are extracted from the different organs in dead animals, primarily cows and pigs, going through a purification process, and we end up with those pancreatin is by far the most predominant in that category. Two, if we look at true plant-based enzymes, there are only two of those, come from the papaya and pineapple, bromelain and papain. And the third group are what they call fermented microbial plant-based enzymes. And those are done in a very controlled pharmaceutical type fermentation process. And if we look at, this is very important as far as the pH in the body does differ greatly as food travels throughout the body. If we look at where animal-based enzymes are active, it's in the lower portion of the stomach, a very small part of the whole digestive system. If we look at plant-based enzymes, they're active every place except in the lower portion of the stomach, so they're much more effective. If we look at the last group of enzymes, the fermented enzymes, they're active from the time that you take them to the time they exit the body. So those are going to do and offer the most benefit for the money. If we just recap and look at what and why you'd want to take digestive enzymes, one, you'll see a significant reduction in any type of indigestion, heartburn, gas bloating, basically any upper digestive issues. That's what it will specifically address. Two, if we look at, again, breaking things down, it'll break that food down faster. You're going to assimilate more of the nutrients that are in the food because, again, it's not what you eat, it's what you assimilate. Diminished food allergies. If you digest your proteins more completely, most allergens are a protein-based organism. So if you're processing and doing proteins very efficiently, you're not going to have any issues or less issues with allergies. Obviously, you'll see an increase in energy levels. 70%, some people say up to 70% of the energy that we have over our lifespan is used to digest food. So if we can free some of that energy up, we're gonna be able to utilize that in different ways. Last one, relief from ulcers, hiatal hernias. Now that you've had a brief introduction to enzymes, we're going to look at where those enzymes are produced, the facility in which that they're manufactured. Facilities are important as far as where the product is produced. With the enzymes, also the source, where the enzymes come from. So all the enzymes that are manufactured through our facility are sourced through Japan, which is the original fermented fermenter of enzymes. We have two facilities, so one does the processing, one does the packaging. And again, those facilities will walk through and look at some of the things that happen here. So the facility is GMP audited and compliant. It's FDA inspected. Minnesota Department of Agriculture issues our manufacturing certificate on an annual basis, and we also have organic certification happening on an annual basis. All the raw materials that are brought in are tested for identity as well as for purity. And again, they're all stored in temperature-controlled environments. And if we look at the handling of the process, I mean, as far as from having the proper respiratory equipment on to protect the employee, as well as to protect the product, all the preventative things that are possible are done in a clean room environment here. All the equipment, stainless steel, state-of-the-art. Packaging, same thing, is automated as much as possible. Warehouse, again, absolutely spotless. We've had multiple people visit the facility, and again, the comments are the same, that we're in the top 1% of the facilities in this country as far as how clean and organized the facilities are, so that's important. Okay, we're going to move on to the last section, which is going to talk about the digestive health product. So we're going to kind of look at the different components of this. This is a very well thought out product, and as you'll see as we go through this, there are very few objections, I believe. I mean, I'm speaking personally, that I think anybody would have to any of the ingredients that are in here. So that's very, very important. Well thought out, well formulated, a very effective product. One of the important things we want to look at are the enzymes that are in there. Again, we've already introduced you to enzymes. Now we're going to look a little bit more specifically. So protease is the main enzyme that you'll see in the formula. This is the enzyme that will break down proteins into simple single amino acids. Then the body's able to reconfigure those amino acids to help the body recuperate, recover, do what it needs to do. Pre-digestion is a big part of it as well. So the enzymes that are used are in a wide enough pH that they'll help pre-digest your food, and that's important because most of the food, again, we talked about, is cooked and or processed. It's void of enzyme content. So the quicker the enzymes can get access to that food, the faster they're going to break that down and make it available to you. Recuperation is a huge piece of this. So I mean, the faster you break proteins down and get them into the body, the quicker you're going to recuperate. So this is huge for anybody that's doing anything athletic or physical. So it doesn't necessarily mean climbing Mount Everest. It could mean, playing backyard football or basketball, or whatever you do. I mean, you're gonna feel the effects of the proteolytic enzymes very, very quickly. If we look at some of the other issues that, more physiological issues in the body, again, where protein linkage, rouleau, where you see red blood cells, stacked together inside the blood. The red blood cells are not going to carry as much oxygen. They're not going to be floating as freely and traveling about as far as the circulation aspect. So you're going to get, it's that effect like after holiday season. You eat a big meal, everything shuts down. Your brain shuts down, all parts of the body basically concentrates on the digestive aspect. Once that's done, then you kind of come back to life, so to speak. So again, that whole process can be speeded up by taking digestive enzymes. It'll also, uric acid, any form of negative bacteria. Again, these are things that the enzymes will eat or break down and help get rid of. We'll look at another enzyme is the amylase enzyme. Amylase is the enzyme that will break down carbohydrates. So we as Americans love carbohydrates. So one of the things that we do to ourselves by not breaking down the sugars completely is offer that as food to different negative forms of bacteria that some of us are familiar with, yeast and candida being a few of those. So if we can break those sugars down more completely, more rapidly, there's going to be less food for those, and you're going to have less issues in regards to those types of bacteria. Obviously, blood sugar levels are going to be balanced out as well. Okay, we'll look at the next important group of enzymes, lipase. So these are the enzymes that break down fats. So very, very big issue here as far regards to plaque, cholesterol, chylus, thrombocyte aggregation. These are all things that we see happen in the blood after you eat a very high fat, meal. So again, the enzymes are going to take and break that down. So the quicker we can get those enzymes in there, the faster we're going to see those results. Cellulase is an enzyme that breaks down fiber into simple sugars. So it also has some history and some research in regards to breaking down the cell wall of the candida yeast bacteria. Lactase enzyme, a lot of people are familiar with this because most people on the planet are lactose, milk sugar intolerant. So this enzyme solves that problem for you. If you take the enzyme with milk or any type of milk product, it breaks that down into such a way that your body can actually utilize the different components of it. Invertase enzyme, if we look at, again, these invertase and maltdiastase are just sugars, or they'll break down disaccharides into monosaccharides or simple sugars. So again, it's speeding that whole process of breaking the sugars down for you. Okay, we'll move on to probiotics. So a lot of people are very familiar with probiotics. They've made a huge impact in the market in the last few years. We've taken 6 of the most predominant active probiotics and put them in the product. First one being acidophilus. So acidophilus is the bacteria that predominantly lives in the small intestine. These bacteria produce enormous amounts of B vitamins, so that's what provides additional energy for us. They also provide their own what they call natural acids. So these are the things that they compete with, because if we look at the colon, you could compare it to a parking garage. There are only so many spaces in there. So I go, as long as those spaces are filled with all the good bacteria, if you eat something that has something negative in it, like E. coli or salmonella, there's no place in that parking lot for them to get to park, basically. So they're just going to exit the body. So again, all these probiotics are going to do very similar things in regards to that. It's just in different parts of the intestinal tract. Most of these bacteria are also going to produce lactase. We talked about that. That's the enzyme that will help break down milk sugars. Okay, acidophilus also has been used for just fighting infections as well as preventing bad breath. Moving on to the second one, bifidum. Bacteria, again, this is kind of the opposite, where most of the activity and where this bacteria is found is going to be in the large intestine or the colon. And this bacteria helps consume old fecal matter. Again, it'll produce B vitamins as well. Obviously, the main reason for it in that part of the body is to help balance the pH. And again, that all has to do with the negative forms of bacteria and keeping those very limited. All right, we'll jump to the next one. So rhamnosus, again, another bacteria that's very powerful as far as stimulating the immune system. Once that happens, the body's able to get rid of a lot of the foreign invaders that are trying to invade the body. Also, specifically will inhibit uropathogenic bacteria, preventing recurrent urinary tract diseases. Very important. Planetarium, one of my favorites, works in the small intestine, and again eliminates dozens of different forms of negative bacteria, E. coli being one of those main bacteria. And again, this enzyme releases lactase enzyme throughout the intestinal tract. Okay, B. longum, a friendly strain of bacteria, inhabits again the large intestine, high concentrations. The acids that it produces will prevent the putrefaction of that different forms of bacteria will do in the colon if left unchecked. So E. coli, Salmonella, S. bacillus, etc. This bacteria used in treatment of digestive orders for infants, enterocolitis, constipation, cirrhosis of the liver. So a number of different research studies done on that particular bacteria. Last one that's in here, L. casei or casei, friendly bacteria. Again, it's stable in both acid and in bile. Produces antimicrobial substances that inhibit several forms of negative bacteria, including the C. difficile diarrhea. So very important, huge part of the product. I mean, as far as being how effective it is because of the probiotics. And we're going to look at a couple other aspects of the product now. One is the prebiotics. So prebiotics we've heard about. Those are the sugars that provide the food for the good bacteria. So if you can provide food for the good bacteria, that's going to cause growth of those bacteria and provide a reason for them to stay, right? And basically, like we talked about, park in the parking lot and stay there because they've got food as a source. This type of probiotics very high in vitamin C as well as low glycemic index, so it's a good sugar substitute. Another big part of the formula, brown rice protein. So this is one of my favorite proteins, and most people won't have any objection to this because it has no lactose in it. So it's not a dairy product. It's a very clean product. It's 80% protein by weight, very high in fiber, has complex carbs as well as B vitamins. And again, anybody that's a vegetarian or has issues with gluten, you'll find this product to be very suitable for that purpose. If we look at the fiber aspect of it, so we've got very high fiber content, and this is both soluble and insoluble fiber that we see in here. Flax is going to provide excellent source omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids. All of these products are going to be high in antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals, and again, very bioavailable for the body. Lignans, very, very up-and-coming product. A lot of research done as far as reducing the risk of breast cancer, and again, increasing cardiovascular health, as well as helping to maintain healthy cholesterol levels. And if we look at this is another critical part as far as with most protein powders, they'll use some type of a sugar substitute, right? Like a Splenda or sucralose or something like that. So as soon as I see that on a label, I set the product back down, not interested. I go, I want something clean. So if you want something clean, you're going to look for stevia. I mean, that should be it, and that is the only sweetener that's in this product. 2, as far as flavoring, it's a natural vanilla flavor. So again, nothing objectionable in the product. Very powerful, effective, well thought out, well formulated product.
Yes, we're here today with Troy Opperly, and he's going to give us an explanation of the probiotics, prebiotics, and how everything works. And I'm going to throw in a couple of information about a lot of our customers that come in and some of the questions that they have. And Troy, one of the biggest things that we have with people coming in is with their digestive system. they're taking all of these pills that the doctors are giving them, and antibiotics and metformin for their diabetes and that stuff there. And it just seems like it just raises a lot of heck with the digestive system. And I'm a type 2 diabetic myself. And the biggest problem I have is when I take that metformin out there, it gives me an upset stomach. But I have learned if I take the Perfect Mother Nature Digestive Health in the morning right away and then go ahead and take the metformin, I don't have that upset stomach problem anymore. But there's a lot of people that are on other medications and that are having a lot of problems with digestion, diarrhea, and that there. And I was just wondering exactly how would this work so well for them? I know it works very well for me.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, if we look at how much money Americans spend on over-the-counter digestive aids as well as, you know, prescription type products, I mean, it's billions and billions of dollars, and those are simply just addressing the symptoms. They're really not getting at the root cause of it. So I go, if we look at what enzymes do, I mean, especially in the upper portion of the digestive system, their job is to break down and assimilate or make, you know, the product assimilatable for the body. So if we look at, you know, whether it's food or you know, prescription or over the counter, I go, if you take that with an enzyme, I go, the enzyme is going to take and break that down into its smallest possible component. Then your body can actually utilize that. So it kind of smooths off that whole, you know, the transition, right? So that you don't rely completely on your body to break that down. The digestive enzymes are going to help, you know, especially in the upper portion of the digestive system, make that happen quicker and smoother.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed though is that taking enzymes before and that there was in a pill form, and they just didn't seem to turn around and react that fast. Since we've gotten into the research and that there with the digestive health, and that is that those guys are live soldiers in there. Yes. They're in there to do their work,
right.
And you can tell the difference. We have a lot of athletes that come in, and it's kind of funny is that we have some people that mothers that come in and all of a sudden start giving it to their sons that are going to college that are athletes,
sure.
and it's improved their performance, you know. And one thing about the saccharides and that stuff there for the muscles and that, which you probably know a lot about because you are an athlete. So could you explain exactly how that works with the muscular system?
Yeah, if we look at, I mean, like with the digestive health, I mean, we take the protein. I mean, one, if we can start with a cleaner protein, right? So, you know, why you've chosen the brown rice protein, I mean, is a great example. I mean, because that's a very clean protein. So it's, and it's still, I mean, any protein is going to be a string of complex amino acids, right? Just basically a long chain of amino acids. The only access that we as human beings have to breaking that down and utilizing the energy or the single amino acids that are on that bond is through the enzymatic process. So that's why if we introduce enzymes into that equation, what they do is they're like little Pac-Man that'll eat the bonds that hold those chains together, right? So instead of having a big long chain that's basically worthless, right? I mean, your body cannot do anything with that. So it'll in fact, what it does is it causes just the opposite, right? You'll see a lot of problems with people not digesting the proteins completely, right? It'll wreak havoc, you know, in the blood and throughout the entire digestive system. So again, introducing enzymes are going to cut the bonds that hold those together, and all of a sudden you've got a totally different picture. Suddenly you've got free single amino acids that the liver can take and reconfigure that and repair the muscle, right? Do what it needs to do, any kind of damage that's regeneration, anything that needs to be fixed. Brought back into balance, the tools will be available for the body to use to make that happen, if that makes sense. But it's all done through the enzymatic process. So without enzymes, none of those things are going to happen.
Well, one of the other things is too is like with diabetics in it there is that it seems to turn around and helps work the pancreas a lot better. And if you could get into that a little bit more, because there's so many of us out there with, you know, that are diabetics in type 1 and type 2, especially the type 2s, is that it seems like we have a harder time breaking down foods because of the pancreas.
Right. Yeah, and if we look at, I mean, the main, there's two aspects as far as what the pancreas will do. I mean, one is produce digestive enzymes. So if we're eating primarily cooked processed foods that are deficient of enzymes, the pancreas is going to have to work overtime in order to produce enough enzymes to digest and break that food down for us. Now what that does, I mean, if we look at the autopsy studies on a typical American, we'll see that the pancreas is enlarged. It could be 2 to 3 times larger than normal. It's like any muscle, right? If I start working this muscle, I go, it's going to get bigger. Very true with an organ. So I go, you start working it, I go, it gets bigger, but there's some negative or downsides to that. So one is if it's putting most of its energy towards digesting food and providing digestive enzymes. The other aspect, which you mentioned here, is balancing blood sugars, right?
Yes.
So it's not able to do that. I mean, it's not going to, it's concentrating so much on this that it starts to slack off on as far as producing insulin to balance the blood sugar levels out. So I go, immediately you'll see a shift as far as the amount of stress on the pancreas, right? As soon as you start taking enzymes, like Digestive Health that have the digestive enzymes in there, it reduces that stress, and all of a sudden it brings some balance back to the pancreas to where it can start producing more insulin and balancing the blood sugar levels out on its own. So we've seen some great results with that.
Yeah, I noticed for myself is that I have to take less metformin than I used to because I'm taking the Digestive Health. We have a lot of problems with two people that come in that have a lot of arthritis, and of course a lot of it is caused by the way we process wheat these days. Is that back when I was a kid, almost every small town had its own mill.
Right.
And the farmers would go out and they would harvest the wheat after it sprouted.
Right.
And now they're harvesting, got these big farms and they're harvesting it before it sprouts, and it keeps all the gluten around the seed itself, and then that gets processed. So we're looking at a lot of people that are starting to have arthritic problems because the gluten in that there causes a lot of acid, and you have panic acid here, and you have your nerve endings here, and as soon as you move, you put the nerve endings into the acid, and that's what they call pain.
Right.
So we've had a lot of people notice that even though that they don't, for some reason people think that gluten-free bread is not good bread, but that's exactly what we used to eat,
Right.
But now, because of the mass of people that they have to feed, they harvest it before because the gluten keeps the seed from deteriorating. But the way that the enzymes and probiotics and prebiotics seem to turn around and break that gluten down a lot better. Could you give a more explanation on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to what we talked about with amino acids and proteins. I mean, as far as anything that's introduced into the body, the job of enzymes is to take and break that down into the smallest component, right? So that the body can actually utilize it. I mean, when things are done like that, I go, like you're mentioning, I go, there are very few downsides, right? There's no negative sides to that. I go, what happens is because of the processing and what we're doing with a lot of different things, not just, with the grains, putting that into our bodies, I go, if you're not having the enzymes present at that time, I go, yeah, you're going to have a lot of different issues. And I go, like with the Digestive Health, I mean, because, taking it on an empty stomach in the morning, right? I mean, that's a big part of it, because I go that the enzymes can not only digest whatever's, like with the protein that's in the Digestive Health, but also they can also have an opportunity to get out into the bloodstream, right? And you can start to see some of the enzymes do some of their work throughout the circulatory system, which is very important as well. But again, their job, like you're talking about the arthritis and the different issues out here, I go, a lot of that too is just the body not able to process those things very efficiently, so it just pushes it out to its extremities, right? That it doesn't want to, like you'll see the uric acid crystals, things of that nature, that I go, once the enzymes, you introduce enzymes to that, then I go, they can start to break those things down, those deposits, get rid of it and free some of that stuff up, and you'll start to see some results as a result of that.
Yeah, because that's the reason why a lot of these people get disfigured, because the acid gets in the joint, every 7 years, your body replaces almost every cell in your body, and if you got all that acid in there, it's not going to reproduce a healthy cell. You know, so it makes a big difference. We've had people that we've gotten to go gluten-free and also start taking the digestive health. And there's one woman, within a matter of a couple weeks, she wasn't using her walker anymore.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really makes a difference. We have clients that come in with digestive problems. They're ready to get a colostomy bag put on, and they start taking the digestive health, and we have another greens products to bring down the acidity in the body, you know. But the thing is that what happens there is when a person starts eating right and doing things right, that they can repair the stomach with these enzymes.
Yeah, and enzymes, you know, like we mentioned, concentrate on the upper portion of the digestive system, and with the probiotics, I mean, they concentrate on the lower portion. So, I mean, it's important to have both of those. I mean, that's what really works about the digestive health product, is that, you know, you're covering the entire digestive system, not just one half of it. So, I mean, if the enzymes can break the foods down, or whatever that, you know, the drug or the prescription, whatever you're taking, I go make it available. I go, it's going to be absorbed through the help of the probiotic bacteria, right, and actually be able to utilize that. And just as important, I mean, anything that you don't need, right, it's just as important as far as what goes out of the body and what you get rid of, right, because a lot of people are not doing that on a regular basis. It's a huge issue. So I go, if you can get the stuff broken down, get the nutrients out of it, and get rid of what you don't need, yes, I mean, you'll see results very quickly.
Well, we have a lot of people too that come in and have a lot of constipation. They start taking it and they start getting the flora back into their system.
Right.
And they'll call me up and they say, well, you know, this isn't working. I says, drink some hot tea. You know, 10 minutes later, come. It really works. You know, but it's things like that people, you know, just aren't educated anymore in, you know, the old ways. You know, I kind of grew up with my great grandmother. She lived until she was 101, and everything she did the old way, and we had to line up every night with the castor oil. You know, the things that you see in the cartoons. Well, she actually did it. So, yeah, it was kind of funny. But yeah, we see a lot of that. But what about prebiotics? You know, what are their complete function?
Well, I mean, if we look at the probiotics, I mean, we talked about that, or we'll talk about that as far as just there's limited space, you know, in the lower intestinal tract, right? So, I mean, what you have is different entities competing for that space. So I go, each one of them has their own little mechanism or defense mechanisms to ward off other things. So that's why if there's a pH variation as far as the pH is off, you end up seeing negative forms of bacteria, you know, gain a foothold in there. And I go, then as soon as you put some good bacteria in, I go, they're going to secrete acids and whatnot that retard or reject or try to fight off the good bacteria from, you know, getting in there as well. So it's like you know, there's a little war going on a mini scale. So that's why if you can provide, like with the prebiotics, I mean, one, you need to provide a substantial quantity of the good probiotics, right, in good form. But then you need to strengthen. It's almost like having it is like the soldiers. You send a bunch of soldiers in, and then you don't have any supplies, right? Any food for them. I go, what's going to happen? I mean, they're going to get slaughtered. Right? They're not going to make it. So I go, you know, if you provide, you know, the soldiers, the probiotics, and then you provide the food chain, which is the prebiotics, I go, you're going to have a steady. They work very well together, right? So they keep the soldiers fed and happy, and they're going to be in there fighting for you and for your health. I mean, that might be an oversimplified way of doing it, or saying it.
No, that's the way my wife does it. She's a natural health nutritionist, and she says these are the good soldiers, and they're going to go after the bad ones.
Right, exactly. And they need food to, you know, maintain their health, and
now, for people that are athletic and that they're, and of course, what is your regimen that you actually do for your digestive health and for to get your muscles up for the stamina that you have to?
I mean, again, going back to your source of protein, and that's why I love Digestive Health, because I go, that's really the only protein that I endorse is a brown rice protein. Awesome. So I've personally had excellent results with that. So I go, but you have to use it in combination, like here, with enzymes and probiotics, so that I can break it down, utilize that. So that's a huge part of what I do as far as during my trainings. The other piece of it are going to be additional. Like I always tell people, you can never take enough enzymes and you can never take enough probiotics. So I go, in addition to taking a Digestive Health product on a daily basis, I mean, as far as taking extra probiotics, extra enzymes, I do that without, I mean, you know, taking digestive enzymes with every meal, taking systemic enzymes before I go to bed at night, taking probiotic bacteria before I go to bed at night. All that, again, it's live, you know, entities. It's energy that you're putting back into your body. So I go, that energy is going to convert itself and do things for you and relieve the stress off your body. So when you get up in the morning, it's like you're a whole new person, right? You're able to go back in and work out with, you know, whether it's weights or running, you know, whatever physical activity I'm doing at that time. You know, that's important, the recuperation aspect of it. So I'm always paying attention to that. I go, if I'm not, you know, if I miss something or I forget to take something and I get up the next day and I'm like dragging, I mean, I know, you know, I missed something. You know, it's enzymes and probiotics.
Yeah, by saying, hey, why didn't you feed me, you know, take care of me, you know. Yeah, you'd be surprised how fast it is, because we also have the enzymes in the capsule form. You know, so it's like if I go out somewhere and, you know, and being in the health and wellness business, you know, everybody, they invite you out to eat or whatever, and they're just looking at you to see what you're going to eat, you know. And yeah, I still like to have my steak and my ribs and that every once in a while. I don't eat it all the time.
Right.
But I take my enzymes before I take it, you know, and they'll go, oh, you're eating that? And I said, then I'll pull out my little pill, but I said, this little guy's going to take care of it all for me within the hour, you know. Because, you know, you sit there and you eat, and you eat a big meal and it just sits there, and the older you get, the longer it sits there, you know. You feel like a slug, you know, and then, you know, if you take that beforehand, you know, it helps digest the food right away. You know, like back when you were a teenager, you could eat a whole pizza and then an hour later you move it on, you know. Well, it does the same thing. Plus what's nice about this here too is that it has a flora in it, you know, to turn around and get this, you know. Yes. Because all the roughs and bumps over the years in our systems, you know, as you do get older, you know, you do cause some problems with your systems, you know, and it's not that smooth thing that you had when you were a teenager. Right. So yeah, it really works well, yeah, because there's a lot of people that had like colitis and that there and had a lot of problems with that, and it's taking care of that, you know. Yep. But how does that go after the colitis?
As far as the probiotic bacteria?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it kind of addresses the pH of the colon, right? So I mean, if you want to maintain, you know, because if you look, I mean, most of the negative forms of bacteria are anaerobic, right? So they're going to exist or flourish in a system that there's no oxygen. So if you can, whereas your friendly or good bacteria, the good soldiers, right? They can, you know, most of them are facultative, which means they can switch back and forth, you know, between a oxygen and non-oxygen environment. So I go. But again, going back to maintaining a proper pH, so as long as there's a balance, a larger balance of the good bacteria that controls the colon, because you're never going to get rid of, people think, oh, you know, I'm going to, like what happens when you take antibiotics, right? It goes through and systematically wipes out everything, right? It just makes no differentiation between good and bad, just whoosh, kills everything. So once all that's gone, you know, but then, you know, that's an opportunity to flood the body with the good bacteria. But you'll never be free of the bad bacteria. I mean, that's there for a reason. I mean, you'll always have some amount of that, so that's fine. But I go, it's only when those get out of balance, right? And a lot of that has to do with the amount of probiotic bacteria, the pH, the conditions that exist, right? The terrain or the environment in which those bacteria, you know, live and exist. That gets out of balance, suddenly you start to see major issues. I mean, it could be from, you know, just something simple, from food poisoning to diarrhea to constipation, you know, being kind of mild cases to, you know, getting into diverticulitis or colitis, or, you know, and then you're talking about, you know, different types of cancer. I mean, there's just a degradation as far as just how things you know, if you let things go for too long, you know, out of balance, it's just you're gonna see, you know, the conditions worsen.
Mm-hmm. To our audience, what would you say to them as far as the digestive health and the reasons why they should really start thinking about getting into a enzyme, faculty, probiotics, whatever? And what would you say is the healthiest thing? Because you're out there all over the country, actually all over the world, right. And you've seen all of the different cultures and why they're so successful compared to ours, because you know, most of our stuff is fast food and, you know, there's nothing there, you know. So what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, I'll share some personal some personal insights here, because I go, you know, when I did travel to the other 6 continents, right, I go, you know, you notice your bowel movements, and I go, bowel movements are significantly different when I visited, because some of those countries you'll stay for 2 or 3 months. I go, you're eating local food, you're having that experience, and I go, bowel movements happen much more often, they're much larger. I mean, it's a whole different thing. I go, you come back here, and I go, just changing your diet, and I go, suddenly, yeah, you have complications and problems. So the only real way to balance that out, again, most of our food is, in this country anyway, I mean, incredibly processed. So the only true way to do that is with a product that has digestive enzymes and probiotics in it, right? To break it down and to get the nutrients out of it, and then to push out what you don't actually use. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge part of it. I go, you know, there's the protein aspect of it, the fiber aspect of it. I mean, there's so many important things, but all those relate back to the health, you know, of your digestive system as a whole. So putting all those components, basically it simplifies it. I mean, because I used to take, you know, flax oil, I used to take, you know, a protein powder, and then you got enzymes, you got, I mean, there's just a massive, right, you could end up with a whole cupboard full of stuff. I go, you could eliminate all of that stuff and just simply take one product. I mean, that's why it's kind of an all-in-one, you know, for your digestive health.
Well, I'll tell you, we're probably going to have to wrap it up right now, but I'll tell you, it was really a pleasure having you here and explaining everything with the enzymes and probiotics, because, you know, that's your life. The other thing that we've looked at with this product is that with the flax and flax hull lignans in it, is that we have the omega-3, 6s, and 9s, which you have your fatty oils to start off today with to get the burners going. And the lignans, they're antibacterial, antifungus, and anti-cancer. And one thing we've learned over the years is if you can keep your body, your pH, between 6.5 and 7, these diseases can't get a hold of you. And our biggest problem, all right, now in life is the foods that we eat, you know. And I still like to have a McDonald's hamburger once in a while, but I make sure I have the enzyme to take care of it too, you know. Right. So it makes a big difference, you know. But of all of your experiences in that there, is that what was the hardest thing that you had to do with all of these athletic things that you've ever done? What was the hardest thing that was the hardest thing that you had to do to accomplish your goal?
Physically?
Yeah.
I mean, so far it's been, you know, climbing Mount McKinley. I mean, that was just, it's absolutely brutal, relentless mountain. I mean, you know, there's no quarter there. It's like, you know, you got to fight for every inch and every foot that you gain there. And I go, you come off there, and I go, you know, without these products, because I mean, most of the climbers and people that I work, you know, spent the last 5 years with, I go, don't take anything. I mean, it's just like, wow. I mean, the amount of you know, how they're beating themselves up, right? I go, I mean, I had a severe advantage, you know, as far as taking the products. I go, just a quick example, like on some of these climbs, people would lose, you know, 20, 25 pounds, right? You simply can't eat enough, right? You can't carry enough, there's not enough time, and all the different factors that go into it, but you can't eat enough. So these guys are losing that kind of weight, so that converts into muscle mass. I go, you're losing strength, you're losing endurance, all those things, you're slowly dying is what's happening. So I go, if you can retard that or slow that down, I go, I saw huge results on all of my climbs. I mean, 14 pounds was the maximum amount of weight I lost. I mean, that's almost half of what these guys are losing. So I go, that means I'm twice as strong, have twice as much endurance. I go, it's a powerful advantage, yeah, knowing that.
Well, we have an unofficial test on the product by one of our my college that I can't mention because it's unofficial, but the professor told us is that taking the digestive health makes everything 10 times more absorbable, and that's quite a feat in itself.
Yep.
You know, so it breaks down the food, and that, so even if you have a healthy system, is that anything that you take with it. That's the reason why we started having people take greens with it, and so it worked out very fine. But it was really enjoyable, you know, having you here. I guess we've got the signal that we're going to have to have to say sayonara, but it sure was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Anybody else that would like to have any further information out there, you can go to our website at greershealth.com. That's GREERS health.com. Have a great day.